Call the meeting to order. Everybody's here, so we have a quorum. Let's get the approval of minutes.
Circulated the draft around, and there was a draft also included in the material that Jerry sent out. Anyone else is going to do it, I'll move that they be approved as submitted by Jerry.
Second.
Okay. Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Carried. Motion carried. Approve the minutes. Any changes to the agenda? Not. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. And a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. The public comments. Okay, election director's report.
Okay, so I don't have a ton of stuff right now, but we did look into the VNCs that we had talked about last time where it had been omitted about the municipal election information. I have no idea when or why that was omitted, but it has now been reinstated. We have got VNCs that are being well, we came across some that were older that you couldn't even see what the name of the polling place was because it was right over top of the type. So we've worked with the printer and everything has been readjusted to make sure that it is correct. And we are in the process of getting those so that we from now on will have those out for the all new VNCs. So again, we are trying to drill down. Teresa and I both were looking at them, trying to figure out when it happened. And we have no idea when. It's back in, we just have no idea. So it's been before I got here that it was taken off, but I had no idea when it was taken off. So it's back on. It has been reinstated so that it will clearly say for municipal elections only, and then it will give another polling place. So that's where we stand with those.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Since not everybody goes to a municipal voting, the cards will not show anything for voting.
Correct.
But if it's in Easton, it'll show where they go, and if it's in Oxford, it'll show where they go, and so forth. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Do you know if that happened at any other counties? Or?
I didn't reach out. I have not. I don't know what on earth could have caused it to. I don't know what happened, but it's now been fixed so that it will reflect as it should. Just to give you an idea of the things that are going on in our office, Teresa had a voter outreach on April 7th with the Neighborhood Service Center. She said there was about 100 people there. She registered 4 people, and 4 people were interested in being election judges. And she spoke with several of the organizations interested in outreach opportunities. So she'll be coordinating with them to do some outreach. She has since done some VRB training in the last few, well, she's completed 2. On the 14th, she had 2 participants, and on the 16th, she had 5. And she is going to be doing another one on the 24th with the NAACP, an evening. The other 2 were a Saturday or an evening. So she's been working, getting VRB training and other outreach taken care of. So she's been working pretty hard on that. We're about, not quite 2/3 of the way done with our training, our election judge training. It seems to be going pretty smoothly up to this point. You know, I always hate to say that until it's completed, but up to this point, everything seems to be going well. The trainers that are coming in from the state board have been really knowledgeable and helpful. I've gotten good feedback from those that have given me information. So we've got the voting judges left and a few check-in judges. Tomorrow we have more check-in judges that are going to be trained. Saturday the 9th, gave it to you, we're going to have an open house if you want to come in and just kind of see. It's going to be for the election judges, so that they can, at that point, play with the equipment.
That's May 9th or June 9th?
June 9th. Did I say June? I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
you
June
said
9th.
You just said it.
Oh, sorry, June
I thought you
9th,
said
yes.
before it was June.
Yes. It just gives them the opportunity, if they have any additional questions, or if they want to just kind of work on the machines anymore to feel more comfortable for election day, since it is a little bit of a gap between the actual training and when the election takes place.
Where would they hear
At the warehouse, so that we've got all the equipment over there. It is voluntary to the judges, and I stress that to each of them, that it's not a mandatory thing. It's just something that we offer if they want to come, and it's going to be from 10 to 2. I have spoken with the local law enforcement and with the sheriff's office, state police, and the municipalities who have jurisdiction, or police officers in their jurisdiction. And I have requested that they just make patrol checks during the day on election day. And so far, I've not received anything saying not to the matter, so I'm assuming that they are on board with just, we're not asking them to just hang out in the polling places, we're just asking them to be available if something does happen. Not anticipating anything happening, but the state board has requested, because of everything that has gone on in our society in the last year or so, that it just be something that we address to the election judges. So at each training, I let them know that we are doing everything we can to make sure that they are safe and during that time frame of being at the polling places.
Can I ask you a question on that? Are you talking about early voting as well as the election day?
Early voting as well, yes. I have touched base with Easton Police Department, and I have requested that they also do just patrol checks occasionally. Obviously, if they live in that jurisdiction, they're going to come in and vote, so that's always a nice thing to just have that presence for a little while when they walk in and to vote in. But again, it's not anything that we want to worry too much about, but at the same time, we just want to have that presence there if something does happen, so that they're not too far away. So I sent that out on the 11th, and like I said, I haven't heard any responses. I haven't heard anything at all, but I'm assuming that they, because sometimes no news is good news. But I had spoken with the sheriff's office, and so we're kind of all on board with that. We will be getting greeter judges for early voting from the state. I'm assuming that happened last election as well. So for early voting, the person that just kind of stands there and is just basically a greeter judge. Just
We decided not to do that.
Linda Lamone decided that we would. She overruled us.
So it's not optional?
No, she overruled us, and actually I should have given you the letter. I've forgotten that part. I will send you the letter so that you have it on record.
How many do we have, do you know?
It'll be at least one each day, but it'll be whoever they send to us. After the meeting, Teresa is going to train the board members on voter registration and absentee information. So she's going to come in here and just kind of go through in case you want to sign people up to register. And also, we had talked about going over to the warehouse after the meeting, but since most of you are coming to the training, it's up to you. We can still go over there, but you kind of see it when you come to the election judge training, so entirely up to you all whether you want to do that or not. And after we made the restoring the district precinct lines, and Phil, thank you for that verbiage to give out to the public, we have received no calls at all. So
Receive what?
we have received no calls.
Okay.
So,
Have you sent out the voter notification cards to that area?
yes, we did that like the day after you all had restored the precinct lines, or district lines. So far, everybody is either they are they're not looking that closely at it, or they are all on board with it, one of the two.
Or you find out on election day.
Or we'll find out on election day.
Can we each get a copy of that statement to have
Which statement?
that
Phil?
Mr. Cronin made?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Since we put in that much work.
I thought he had sent it to everybody.
Everybody received it already.
Yeah, but I will send it out again. And I'll send the letter from Linda Lamone. Okay, and that's pretty much all I have at this point.
Mr. Cronin, do you have anything else?
I don't, unless there were any questions about what we did last time. Nothing new has come up.
Thank goodness.
Right.
Okay, old business, any review of invoices?
Just for clarification, Telewire, are they the computer support company that we use?
Firewall,
For this, for the firewall?
yeah.
They do that remotely.
No, they actually installed a new firewall.
Come here.
Mhm. Yes.
We had a $3 bill from Verizon.
Yeah. I'm assuming that is, actually, it was Eastern Utilities, right?
No. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh,
That is, I'm assuming, the service for the
Service.
firewall. That's-
Install rate.
Is that something that'll be a monthly charge or?
I thought it was actually going to be more than that, so I'm not sure exactly what the charge is, so I was kind of pleased. That's it, when I saw that, I was very pleased, so I was like, okay, if this is what they're charging us. And it looks like it's for a month, a little less than a month, so we'll see the next billing when it comes through.
This is to inform you it was a typographical error. That's what the letter will say.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, should have been more zeros or something. We hope not.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the review of invoices, we'll move on to approve of election judges. You got the most up to date.
No, I did not print it
Just
off.
for the vote.
Unfortunately, I did not print it off, but I did, you had asked for the precincts. Just one second, I've got to go get that. I forgot to clear that up. This is the, you had requested that it show where they actually are assigned and where they are, their location. Their home precinct as well as their, where they're assigned.
That's why they're that column there.
Yeah, I was concerned about that because there's so many that are out of their home precinct, and somebody was talking the other day, said, you know, there's two contacts we have with government, one's motor vehicles and one's elections, and when you go in, it's nice to see somebody that you know rather than somebody from what they consider to be the bureaucracy then. And there are quite a few that are out of the precinct. I just wondered, can you make any changes before the general to improve that?
If I can do my best. Because we have to keep it within party lines and the whole, you know, everything else, so it's just one of those that it's where people, you know, where they want to, I'll do my best.
On Claiborne, there's 4 Democrats and only 2 Republicans. Can you make any adjustment on that?
I think we did.
2 differences, that's all right.
Who was, that's St. French, or,
Or Whitman, I mean, not Claiborne.
Yeah, that's the United Methodist Church there, is that?
Yeah,
what-
New
I
St.
got it.
John.
I think it's better, I think it's gone.
Well, the one you gave me the other day, it was 42, and that's
Okay.
not according to law.
Well, and I spoke with Nikki about that, and she said that, to do the best I could possibly do, but we need to make sure that we do have people in the polling place, but I will look at it again, and if I can move people around, because then it'll bring off to the other polling places as well, but I will look at it. Whitman? I will do my best to look at it.
And the other one I was curious about is Eastern Firehouse has 6,000 voters registered there. And you have 12 judges. And at the community center, there's 2,500 voters, and you still have 12 judges. And then last time, I think there was 8 or 9 at the community center, and there was like 17 at the firehouse. I'm wondering if that's,
Well, keep in mind, it is only
Yeah, wow.
Democrats and Republicans that
I know.
are voting, but
well, that's
I'll
what
look
I
at
figured.
it.
That's what I figured, The
Okay.
Democrats, Republicans, is 2,500, 12 at the
Okay.
community center, and 6,000 at the firehouse.
Okay.
So there's two precincts at the firehouse.
On the balance, between parties, the way I read the community center, you've got 7 Democrat and 3 Republican.
I guess it's been changed.
It has?
The updated list
An updated
was,
I just didn't have time this morning to print it all.
Okay. Which is,
the updated list is 5 Republicans and 6 Democrats.
went the other way.
Well, no, it's
And there's one independent too there.
one affiliated. The standby judges, will they be working early voting at all?
I haven't, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, I personally think it would give them the opportunity to at least experience
Because I think
working.
most of them are brand new.
There's a lot of brand new judges.
How does that work? If you work on the early voting, do they not get the standby fee
No, they would still get it for election day.
What-
for election
yeah,
day? So
they
they
would-
get, okay,
They would be paid for early voting.
they would be paid for early voting and get, and if they're not used on
If they're
election
not
day,
used
they
on
would get
election.
paid the
Mhm.
standby fee. And would it be vice versa too? In other words, if they didn't get called for early voting and got called on election day, they would get standby fee. I guess it's easy
Well,
to
the
ask the
election
question.
judge pay if
If
they're
they never
called.
get called, do they get 2 standby fees or what?
One.
If they're called, do they still get the standby fee?
No, if they're called, only if they refuse, then they don't
If they're
get
not
anything.
used, then they get,
They get nothing.
no, but I mean, if
But
they're not called, they
if
get
they're
the
not called, they
standby
get the
fee.
standby fee.
But if
Correct.
they're called, they get the regular
They get the
judges
regular
pay
judges.
instead of the standby fee.
Right. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go back to my earlier question then. If they don't get called for early voting but get called on election day, do they get a standby fee?
If they don't get called for
Early
early
voting.
voting, but get called, no.
They
no.
don't.
Mhm.
And then the vice versa. So if they get called for early voting and don't get called for election day, they don't get the standby fee.
No, they still
For
get
election
standby
day, they
fee.
would get the standby, because that standby is the most important thing for election day.
Yeah.
Early voting, we have enough enough judges that are
Okay,
interested in
so
working
it works
early
one way
voting.
but not the other way.
We're just going to allow them the opportunity to see how the procedure works
Yeah.
on early voting. So that's
So that means-
my thought.
That means they get the regular fee for the early voting day and the standby fee on election day.
If they do not work election day.
day.
Correct.
I mean, I don't have too much problem with that. I just want to make sure that the rules are clear for everybody.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people that are wanting to work early voting, that we just weren't able to get them all in because we've got so many,
But it's a-
you know,
it's
we
a-
can only have
it's a-
so many people at each poll
Well,
area
they-
at early voting.
It's a twofer for that, yeah.
Yeah,
Big two.
yeah.
All right.
What's the situation with the same-day registration? Training somebody for that?
Yes.
Or
Actually, Jeff Barone has agreed to do it every day.
every day?
And he did it most of the time last time. So I reached out to other counties, and that's kind of what they're doing. And there will be a provisional judge there as well, because we want them to see, with the idea that this, if this law goes into enactment, the one that will be on the November ballot, at least this way they could get the exposure of seeing what same-day registration looks like for, if they can't work this time in November, they're going to be able to see how this process right now works. I'm sure it's going to have to be tweaked only because it's going to be election day instead of early voting, but at least they'll get some exposure to it. But yes, Jeff has agreed to do each day.
He's been doing provisional forever, I think.
Yeah, he's on the ball. I
He
really,
likes that.
I'm so glad that he agreed to it, because it gives me that sense of security, knowing that someone is there that knows how to handle any situation, and yet he still knows he can reach out to us if he has to. But yeah, it just, I like that he agreed.
He's not bridge tender now, so he can do that. Jeff used to be the bridge tender at Talbot.
Mm.
Okay, we want to approve these with the suggested changes for Whitman and the, I guess, the two eastern polling places.
What are the suggested changes?
Well, I don't know, what would you do at East? Move a couple of people from the community center to?
I'm just trying to figure out how many people do you want at the Eastern Firehouse? I just figured that 12 would be sufficient for that election. I can always move more in there if you would rather. Obviously, in the fall, we're going to need more judges.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you
there.
might talk to the chief judge to see if we need more there, but I just don't think we need that many at the community center.
Correct.
Because
Okay.
we've gotten by with 8 or 9 before.
Okay.
And it's a pretty small place, really, that room
Right,
there.
it is.
So your suggestion is that we approve the list with a reduction at the community center to, say, 9?
Well,
Your
probably,
suggestion?
what's the balance there? Let me look.
Is there some formula for determining the number of judges that we have?
Before, one of the things we had done is determine, we had a number of voters per judge, and in the large polling places, we tried to stay not too much over 200. And the small ones, because of the number of judges, we were around 100. And we couldn't, with 7 judges, it was like Bosman and Whitman and Tillman, you can't get much out of that. But at the community center, we were at 104 voters per judge, and at the firehouse, it's at 3,000. No, 253, sorry, 3,000, 253. So to me, it would just make sense. Either to reduce we've got 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, so I mean, I kind of feel we ought to probably reduce it by 3, reduce 2 of the Democrats, 1 of the Republicans to get an even balance.
And that's it. Hopefully everybody shows up on election day.
Right, yeah. Well, that's what the same guys are for.
Well, again, I still have the question. Is there a formula for determining the number of judges that we have, or should have, rather than just kind of think we have to have X number and so forth. Madam Director?
I was just basing it on the numbers. I was trying to keep the larger polling places with pretty much the same number of judges, only to, that way it would give them more flexibility during the day, because in the fall, they will have the need for more judges at all of the larger polling places, like Cordova and the community center, firehouse, and the high school. That was how I just.
Well, I don't take issue with that. I just want to get a clarification myself. Is it a discretionary call, or is it, which it appears to be, rather than the guidelines or rules that comes from the state board?
I don't believe there is any guidelines as far as from the state board.
All right.
At some point, we were told there were numbers. If there are a certain number of judges, you have to have a certain number of judges. A certain number of voters anticipated you have to have a certain amount of judges. Is that
And
not-
equipment. Equipment is what it's largely based on. Is
Okay.
that you have a certain number, depending on, I think it's for every, I've forgotten what the exact ratio is, but for so many voters, you have to have that number of judges, excuse me, poll books, or DS200s, or, well, it was BMDs, but now they've backed that down.
So is your suggestion based on what the equipment recommendations are? Are you looking at, placing the people with the equipment? Is that what you're?
Partly because of the equipment, because in the fall, we will be sending out more DS200s. So in the spring, no, we're not going to be sending out the additional DS200s except to the firehouse. But it gives the experience for them to work in the primary so that they'll be ready for the general. But it was more discretionary than anything.
Okay. So you had
Basic.
also said that there were a lot of new judges. And so what you're saying now kind of goes along with the fact that there are a lot of new judges and you want them to get the experience in this election.
Yeah, I just,
So
yeah.
what's the percentage of new judges? Do you have any idea?
Unfortunately, I don't know how many, because I didn't really have a lot to go from with the previous information. I can't give you an actual percentage. I can.
You don't. I'm just wondering, do you think it's half of the judges? I'm not
I
asking
doubt
you.
it's that many.
Maybe a little, I don't think it's as high as half,
Mhm.
but there's quite a few. And for me, trying to get to know them also, for me personally, to see where their strengths and weaknesses are in
Right.
these polling places.
Right.
That's something that I'm trying to base it on for me too, just to kind of get that feel for, maybe somebody's checking judge that maybe would be better as a voting judge, but I won't know that until I see how it goes through that first process. And getting the feedback from the chiefs at that meeting that we'll have.
Right, I understand. So there's a certain validity to the suggested numbers because of the experience that the judges are going to gain and your experience in seeing how they handle the jobs that are assigned to them.
Can you compare the amount of equipment to the community center versus Cordova? They're pretty much comparable in size, but the thing with the community center, historically about half of them vote early. And we've got 11 judges at Cordova, but 12 at the community center, and there's more voters at Cordova than there is at the community center.
It was just that I hadn't assigned, I would like to ultimately put that 12th person in there, but I had not done it at that point.
12 person
And Cordova, just so
In
that
Cordova.
the largest ones have all, they have 12. This is a work in progress, and unfortunately, I'm also working around other jobs that I'm trying to get done as well. So it's one of these, usually by now, most of the judges by training are in place, and I'm just going forward with it. So this is something that has been, you know, have had to keep revisiting a lot.
The list you gave us, we had 10 at that, when you sent this out to us, at Cordova, and 11 at the community centers, high school, and the firehouse. So now are you saying that those numbers are changed?
Well, I mean,
I think
there's
they've all
like
increased
12,
one.
yeah.
They've all increased one?
There's 11 at Cordova, and 12 at the community center, 12 at the firehouse, 12 at the high school.
Because I have been awaiting, I'm sorry, I have been awaiting information from people who were given to me. I can't assign them until I actually have their confirmation, and even so, these numbers may drop if they don't show up for training.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now I have 3 people that didn't show up for training last night. So I have reached out to them, and I have heard back from 1. So that's 3 check-in judges that I'm going to have to try to figure out what to do with. So these are all, you know, I will have a much better feel for everything once training is done, and then I can say, okay, this is what I have to work with.
Well, net effect, Madam Director, is you're still working on these things. That's what I hear you saying.
It's a constant work in progress, because with, unfortunately, election judges don't have to be there. We hope they want to be there, you know.
Well,
If it turns out
as
to
far
be a
as we're
beautiful
concerned, we
day.
have to have some.
Exactly.
That's
Believe me, I understand that more than you realize. But if June 26th turns out to be a beautiful day, they don't have to be at that polling place, but we have to have an election, so.
You can send it, I don't want this to be broadcast around the county, but can't you send the sheriff out?
Probably not. No.
That's what I was concerned about, so I prefaced this.
I wish I had that much control.
Well,
Some other things.
you know, I understand where Joe is coming from. We need to manage the process from the standpoint of cost as well as service. You know, it just is, it just seems obvious that you need fewer at one place than the other because of the number of voters that are there.
Right.
And so we don't need to be spending money for people just to, because they like to learn. I think we're paying that in the process of the training, pay the fee for the training. I don't know how to fix the problem, because I think it's obviously an issue that I wouldn't want to have, and you do have in terms of.
Along with many other issues.
I understand, but
So I am trying to.
This is the one
You
we have this is one we have a say in.
And I agree, and you have to trust that I am doing my best to make sure that we have everything that your request is. I am not trying to overstock any one polling place or not put them evenly. I want to do the best I can to make that all work. But I also know what happens on election day and days leading up to the election from previous life.
Well, you have a sense of what the issues are among all of us, and I think Walter raised a good question about, do you have a standard? There's other issues besides just the number of voters. There's an issue about whether there's a more complex number of ballots at one place versus another, and that sort of thing. So I think it would be good for us to take some action today on this, but direct you to come back to us with revisions at the next meeting, as you suggest we undertake based on these comments and the reality of how many people you actually get through the training. Because some of these people, as you say, haven't been trained, they may drop out in the process.
Or they may train and still not show, and that's what my concern is.
But that's a second step. You know, you know when you come back next month whether they showed up at the training or not. Whether they show up on election day, that's an uncontrollable thing, and you don't know whether it's. Of across the board, or it all happens at just a few of the locations or something.
Well, if they don't show up for training, I mean, it's possible they had some good excuse, but if they don't respond back,
But they can't show up.
that's an indication of what they're gonna do election day, you know.
But they can't vote, they can't show up on election day if they haven't been to the training.
Right.
So we know that that's a strike. You're off the list when they don't show up.
Right, if they have not shown up for training, they cannot work.
And I support Joe's view that we need to look closely at the ratios of registered voters by party. That's because you're not by party, but that are registered by party, I guess.
Because even the
primary.
smaller ones, I don't know the feeling, but because our poll books are antiquated, I want to make sure that we have, and that's why there are more going out than what maybe has gone out in the past. We want to make sure that they are available, because they're just getting older. They should be no problem at all, but we want to be on the safe side instead of on the, I'd rather err on the side of caution than have to try to get something out to the polls if something happens to one of them.
Are you saying that if you send a poll book out, you have to have judges to back it?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
If a poll book goes bad, how much trouble is it to replace it?
It would have to be, because we don't have an overabundance of them, it would have to be, go through a process of LNA. It would have to be set up for that particular polling place, and then it would have to be sent out to them. So it would be it would take a process of getting it done.
We had that situation, I don't know if you remember.
It's at Rikers.
It takes hours. I mean, it took, as I remember, it was down in Tillman.
Well, Tillman too, yeah.
And it took probably half a day at least to get that poll book down there and operational. So it's not just a matter of pulling it out of the warehouse and driving it down to the polling place.
Right. And again, they may be, I mean, they're wonderful. We're not having any issues. So that's my hope for primary and general election. But they are older.
Well, we need to give these people a confirmation that they're approved by the board, I think, at some point in time. We could do that today, or could we defer it till next month? I guess that's
Well, at training, they are taking the oath
yeah,
of being an election judge.
okay, so we need to vote them in as judges. So I think I don't think anybody's recommended that anybody here is not worthy of being on there. So I guess would a motion to approve these subject to revision at the next meeting, would that be the right
So when you say
step to take?
revisions, are you saying at that point I'm to drop people out
No,
of those?
I'm suggesting that you reshuffle the deck in a way, you know, to comply with the issues that have been raised today. I'm not suggesting that, because unfortunately, maybe somebody might get shifted to standby as opposed to full service, but that's where I'm going with this. I think you need to know that the board has no issue with any of the people that are on your list, and that they, at this point in time, this is where they are, but they have to be aware that they could be moved to a different either location or to standby. Maybe the standbys get moved up, I don't know, but because you may find that some of these people don't show up in training, and we move the standbys back. So I don't know how to phrase that, but is that something?
I don't agree.
Okay.
I think we're weakening this whole, these are people who talk, and they've already been told that the salary that they were told originally is not the salary. That was the first big change that we made after the fact. And if we start now saying there's a possibility that you won't have the job that has been presented to you and you will be put on a standby. I realize that that's just a possibility in what you're saying, but I just think we're weakening this method of getting competent, reliable people to be judges. I'm very uncomfortable with it. So I don't think it's a good idea. I think we need to rely on what the suggestions are coming from the director. Agree that there are no people on this list that we object to, and let them be placed in the jobs that they have been told they're going to be placed in, and not include that, well, you are being told you're going to be a judge, but you may just be a standby. I don't think that's the way to go.
I agree with that part, yeah. But when I was thinking about like revisions, I was thinking about numbers, you know, have so many here and so many there. Because if I were in that position, I wouldn't want to, you know, if I was told I'm an election judge, but now I'm ready to be changed to standby or something like that. That part, I wouldn't like. So I'm in agreement with you on that. But as far as the numbers, how many we have here or at Easton or, you know, whatever, that is what I'm concerned about.
My concern primarily between the firehouse and the community center. The community center, we've got the same number of judges we have at the firehouse. At the firehouse, we've got 4 different ballot styles. The community center, we only have 2. At the community center, we've got about 2,500 voters, and historically, about half of them have voted early. And at the firehouse, we've got over 6,000 voters, and you know, a lot of them vote early, but still, that's twice as many as what we've got at the community center, yet we've got the same number of judges. I mean, to me, that's just not logical.
Well, we already said that the training has not finished, and the training is going to show how many judges are actually going to be available. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is not a final list, and we don't have all the information yet.
No, it changes pretty much
Final
daily.
Well, maybe this is a lesson for us for the general election. You know, without board approval, people have been given this information, and it's technically the board's responsibility to approve this list. So that's an issue that has to be cranked into the process next time. In other words, what I think is a series of steps would be: one is, here's the amount, the number of judges by category at each of these places. That's step 1. That happens early on. When we get to the general election, we would consider that as a step. And then as to who gets those seats, that's a second step. And we would now already have passed the issue that Joe is concerned about. We would have already solved the problem of the issue of the salaries or the pay. We would be by that. So then it's only a question of whether they are in Bosman or whether they're in St. Michael's or wherever. And you know exactly the number you're going to have that we're satisfied with. You're still stuck with the issue of whether there's enough judges that show up and all of that. So I'm laying that out as a suggestion for the general election, and that we maybe adopt this plan, and then you come back and tell us what steps you had to take that were not consistent with this plan because judges didn't.
Well, can I just offer that when I gave it to you at the last meeting, in the election calendar, it says that election judges become that's when they start their term, was in March. So that's why I had given it to you prior to that date. Actually, I think I had given it to you in February and March. So I was trying to make sure that everything was acknowledged before I sent out anything, because we do have to have training. And I can't wait until the last, until I have to give them enough notice so that I can make sure that they have time to make their schedules for training. So I was really trying to err on that side of making sure that everything was presented to you all in a timely manner, so that therefore I can move forward and give it to the judges and say, okay, this is when the training will take place. And at that point, that's when more judges were requested because of party guidelines. And that's where I had, at that point, started adding more to make sure that there was a even number of party members in each polling place. So I do try to make it as, according to the election guidelines, I did try to keep you informed as I went through the process as much as I could. But unfortunately, because we are dealing with humans who, some take it very seriously and some take it as, if I feel like it, I'll be there. It's so hard to give you an exact number at any point until the day after the election, when I can say, this is who showed up. And I'm not trying to be in awe. I'm just trying to make sure that that you understand that I don't take that lightly at all. The election judges I take very seriously.
Is there any reason we cannot table this and address it at the next board meeting?
Well, by then, all of them will have received their oath, and all of them will have been trained that are trained. So at that point, they're election judges.
Okay.
Well, I would like to not continue to delay this any further, get some action on it. And so my suggestion was that we approve this as presented. You understand the issues, and ask you to come back if there's to tell us how you can make modifications to this. At the next meeting, you will have a chance to understand who's gone through the training, know the numbers more precisely.
So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish, please.
I'm done.
Oh, I just want to make sure the ones that were really the concern. Now, Whitman, I think I have got that one resolved. I thought I did, but maybe not. I'll look at that again. But that's going to be a hard one for someone. That's a far reacher. So I'm trying to. It's not like Easton. I can move people from Talbot Community Center to Easton Firehouse if that is a request. That's not. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. But the Whitman situation may be more of an issue for trying to get judges at that particular polling place, because it is to keep in
because
those,
of the distance it is.
Right, and to keep them where you had requested they try to be in part, or in community.
Well, previously we had somebody who's in the second precinct of the Eastern District who was assigned to Bosman, and he didn't show up. And he probably didn't know where Bosman was. He was new in the area.
Yeah, and I do request that judges do search out their polling place prior to election day, but they do or they don't.
So with the caveat that I made, I'm making a motion that we approve the list. What I do is, before I finish that sentence, there is another list beside the one you sent to us in the mail last week.
Yeah, Joe has the most recent one, and unfortunately I didn't. I just didn't change it, and it's probably changed since that one.
Came in to get the.
Well, I hate to see us approve of the list that we haven't seen, so I'm going to approve the list that you gave us in the mailing.
Okay.
And then you'll come back at the next meeting and tell us what changes you feel you have to make to that list, and we'll have another discussion.
So you're making that as a motion?
Yes, I move that we adopt this list here, the one that she sent us.
Do I have a second to that?
That's
He didn't finish his
No, that-
was.
No, that was it.
Your motion that we adopt this list.
And she, and I said it's premised at the beginning with the understanding that she would come back to us next month with any changes to this list, because we haven't seen it, all Joe has seen that.
Well, your motion is the approval of the list, period. That's
Right.
your motion.
Yeah, I don't know that names have changed. There might be a few that have been added since that
Okay.
list, but I don't know.
Well, I think it's about it's really more about the numbers
Mhm.
of people working at different polling places that we're asking you to come back to us with your recommendation. And so I made that motion, and Wadella's
I
still okay.
second.
Wait a second, okay. Any discussion? All right, I'll vote to approve the motion by Mr. Bowman regarding election judges. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no? Okay, it's carried. The next issue is the budget for 2018. Anything on that?
You don't give me a copy of that one because I forgot to do that. You don't have any copies, so they.
Probably could, yeah.
I
You
thought
got
about
your,
that and then it
you
went
can
off
make
my
copies.
mind. Yeah.
The 2019 budget, we received, or actually Jerry picked them up on Friday, and I picked mine up on Monday. The only change is somehow they've got our pay for canvas in there twice, in two different things. And the other change is on, they've added rent for, I'm assuming it's this building and the warehouse.
What page is that, Joe?
That's not on there, the rent's new. It's after lease of equipment, 54, 55, and she's going to make copies.
Okay.
And it's $54.90, a new thing they've added, $17,200 rent. Now, we haven't received any explanation of that, but I'm assuming it's for this office and the warehouse. It may just be for the warehouse, I don't know. But apparently they haven't charged us rent before, and now they're trying to spread the expense among the different departments. Is just my assumption.
So is that 17,200 a year or a month?
It's for the year. And the canvas, they included under both categories, under election 5,000, which is the general expense, and they've also included under the election, or reg election, REG election 5,000. They've included both places. Don't think we'll get paid twice for doing the canvas, but apparently that's just a slip up or a misunderstanding on somebody up there. But everything else was exactly as we submitted.
It's not a cash item, right? It's just their internal bookkeeping. Joe?
What's
I
that?
think that's not a cash item,
Yeah.
that's just
It's
it's
just
internal
something-
bookkeeping
It's
thing.
just a way of their budgeting and internal bookkeeping, yes. The only thing that was slightly different, but they left it the same, is on FICA, instead of $10,620, that's 50/30. It's 10,808, but they left the budget at the 620.
I see FICA, 10,620.
620, and they put in a number of 10,808. Well, they calculated based on the percentage of salaries. And the other one is slightly different, with workers' compensation. The request is $34, and they changed it to $38. A whole $4 difference.
Nothing we need to do about those things, right? Thank you.
I don't
We
think
just
that's
need
what
to
we
see to
do.
know
I mean,
that.
this is not final, they've had 2 more hearings on it, but,
Oh, okay, I see.
so I don't know that we really need to take any action on this or anything else, as far as that's concerned. It will be finalized, we say.
Oh, shoot, I forgot to put the letter.
There'll be 2 hearings, Tuesday, May 1st at the meeting room in the courthouse, and one at the high school cafeteria at 7 p.m. And written comments were accepted until Wednesday, May 1st, and the county charter requires that the budget ordinance be adopted by June 1st. You'll be notified of the appropriation for the election board in early June. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. It's Amy Hollis. So I don't think, you know,
The only issue that would suggest that Jerry, tell him not to pay us twice for the board canvassers.
they've got
Oh,
they've got the canvas number in here twice. They've got it under 5,000, the salaries, and then they've got it under in reg election day or reg election 5,000. They've got it included there too.
But they had the same, you were talking, the number you gave us. I don't know where.
I see the 2,500, but I'm not sure where I see the 5,000.
No, it's 2,500, 2 different places. Under the list of salaries, it's got 15,900. It's got our salaries for the board members, and then $500 for canvassing each. So it's got 2,500 there. But it's also got it under salaries of 5,000.
I'm sorry, I'm really
It
not
took a while to
seeing
figure it
anything.
out.
I'm not seeing, all I see is 2,500 for the salaries.
Right, but if you look on the page that has everybody's listed,
Correct?
it has 500 for canvas. It's added, and what we get for salaries is 12 something, and they've got 2,500 added again in there. It says 500 for canvas. I don't think it matters, you know, it's just, we'll have $2,500 in the budget we didn't use.
Right. And may need for something else.
Right.
That's-
If we get a jam, we can ask to transfer.
Well, and as she had said, they don't worry about transferring.
Right.
It's just a matter of, at the end of the fiscal year, we should have stayed within budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything out of county bulletins?
A lot of training coming up for us. Ready for the election.
I see they want to do a report on 16-year-olds.
Do a report, that's, I don't even look at that because of the fact that the schools are open, so, at this point.
Anything under customer satisfaction survey? Okay. Anything else under old business?
just, and I hope you all noticed, I just put the polling place evaluation form that has just been given to us, that's in your packet for 2018. So you can kind of see what they're looking for when they go around for polling place evaluations.
I don't think there's too much change in it, is it?
Probably not. They don't usually. But at least you've got the latest and greatest.
I think probably the biggest change is ask a chief judge. It used to say ask the chief judge.
And that's one thing that I have asked all the veterans and everyone, that if someone comes into the polling place, that they immediately go to the chief judge. And I would ask that of you all too. I mean, obviously you might want to say something to the other judges, but just ask the chief judges, because if they're busy or whatever, that's the only request that I've heard come back is just make sure the chief judges are aware that you guys are there so that they know what's happening.
When the program, when we check in, go to the chief judge and introduce ourselves.
Yeah, because a lot of times check-in judges are the first point of contact just because it's who everybody sees first. And I've instructed the check-in judges, if anybody comes in, no matter who it is, to please direct them to the chief judges.
Have they indicated a problem with that in the past? Because I think we've traditionally done that.
Okay. Well, there was a comment that sometimes the other judges were getting in long conversations with not necessarily board members, but somebody who came into the polling place. They didn't say who, they just said that sometimes they noticed that the judges are in conversation for a long period of time. And that's all. I don't know who,
Yeah.
by who. I'm passing it on, the information I got from trainings and so forth. I think it'll be very helpful to have the two chief judges. I know it will be very helpful to have the two chief judges in each polling place. It's going to take a lot off that one chief judge.
Okay, go to new business. Do we want to visit the warehouse or do we want to postpone that?
Well, is it necessary that we go? I think Jerry mentioned that we go there for training. I mean,
Regina's in the middle of downloading poll book information for election day and early voting, so she's kind of busy over there right now.
Oh, we're going to go out. Prefer to have a motion to put it off until we go to training.
I move that we postpone visiting the warehouse until training.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Next meeting is May 16th, and it was changed to a morning meeting at 9:30. The reasons to be sworn in, and the other two.
Actually, I'm asking for the postponement of the, until closer to the end of the month. We were going to go ahead and do the supply verification.
But it might be pushing.
But I would rather, if we can just plan on one day as it gets closer. I think the deadline is like June 1st, so I'm closer to that time frame.
But you will have clerk record here to swear us in?
Yes, I have already confirmed with her, and she will be here at 9:30.
Well, I missed something else that was deferred. What was deferred?
The supply verification to later in the month of May.
Oh, so you'll call us in for another.
Correct, just one of each party. It doesn't
Oh.
matter who. Actually, well, it's usually better to have one of each party. Whatever day, I'll send an email out and ask who is available to come.
So it's being deferred until later in May. And one of each party.
Okay. And for a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
So adjourned.